Okay, in this video I'm going to cover some of exercises 9.8b. So let's just start with problem 1. X squared minus b equals 0. In these problems we're just simply solving for x, trying to figure out what would make this a true statement. Well, let's just isolate x. Add b to both sides, cancels there. There's a simple trick. Basically, if you change the sides of a number, you're going to change its sign. So this will change to a positive b. The long way to do that would be like this. You've probably already discovered the shortcut, but in case you haven't, you add b to both sides of the equation so that you haven't changed anything. Ah, look, these two cancel. You're left with x squared equals b. Quick way to do it. X squared minus b is 0. X squared equals, change to the side, change the sign. X squared equals positive b. Anyway, we're getting back on the main track now. Square both sides so that I can find just x. X equals plus or minus the square root of b. Well, there's a way we can check our work. So down here, and I encourage you to do this for really every problem, you know, especially if you're on a test and you want to be sure you're getting it right. Okay, so let's just substitute it back in. If x equals plus or minus square root of b, let's just see if that equation that we were originally given is true. X squared minus b is 0. Well, x, which is inside here, we're saying could be plus or minus b. Let's try plus b. Alright, that square root of b squared just turns out to be b. Minus b is indeed 0. If it was a negative square root of b, yeah, that's going to work too, because negative times negative is positive. You'd have a positive regular b minus a b is a 0. So either way it worked. X is plus or minus the square root of b. Let's do problem 2. Problem 2 is 6ax squared minus 54ax equals 0. These are quadratic equations. They have an x squared value, an x value, and some of them will have a number. You know how you've seen them, like x squared plus 2x plus 4. You've got an x squared, an x, and then just a numerical value equals a 0. That's like a quadratic setup. So anyway, these are quadratic equations that we're working on. Good thing to remember. Just a random side note. Alright, so we've got 6. What I want you to look at this problem briefly and just see if you can see a way to factor. We're still trying to get x by itself, but it's split up between the two terms, and we need to get it by itself. So let's factor out some things from both of these two terms. We can factor out a 6 from both terms. 9 times 6 is 54. So we can factor out a 6, we can factor out an a, we can factor out just an x, and inside this parentheses we'll just put our other stuff. The 6ax times another x will equal 6ax squared minus a 9, and that's it. X minus 9 is 0. So this is what we're left with. Up here at the beginning problem we were adding two terms. With factoring, now we've really made it work to where we're multiplying two different terms. Now our question is, what does x need to be in order for this whole thing to equal 0 like it says it does? Well, let's just see. In order for two terms being multiplied together to make 0, like say I had x and y being multiplied to make 0, one of them needs to be 0. Y could be a 0 and x could be a 52. They'd still equal 0. Or maybe y could be a 10 and x could be a 0. Then they'd still equal 0. So one of these terms has to be 0. I know for this term, if x is a positive 9, positive 9 minus 9 would be 0. So if x is a positive 9, That would work to zero out this one. But what about this one? If x was a positive 9 here, I mean, it will still work if you plug it in, but I'm saying it could be a positive 9 to work and make this one 0. But it doesn't have to be a positive 9 to make this one a 0. To make this one a 0, x really just needs to be 0. Because 6 times a times anything else times a 0 is just going to be 0. This is how Abeka would like you to write it out. All my gibberish together is maybe not making sense to you. They want you to say 6ax needs to equal 0, and x minus 9 needs to be able to equal 0. Either of these could be my answer. Let's find out what x would be. Divide both sides. Well, you divide a 0 by a 6a and you're just going to get 0. X needs to be 0. And my other answer, x minus 9 is 0. Okay, add 9 to both sides. X equals 9. Look, I've just found my answer. I found it earlier with you by just reasoning through it. This is a very much more organized way to do it. Just set them as like their own little equation. X could be 0 and x could be 9 in this particular problem.